Hi, everyone, and welcome to the 59th episode of Vitals and Voices. I'm Lathika, and I'm the founder and host.
And I'm Camden, and I'm the co-host, and we serve on the executive team of Vitals and Voices.
Vitals and Voices brings together generations of people involved in healthcare to foster a supportive and connected community.
Please welcome our guest, Michele Neskey.
Michelle, thank you so much for joining us today. We're so excited to have you on Battles and Voices. To start us off, feel free to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what you do.
Okay, hi. Well, thank you so much for having me. My name is Michele Neskey. I'm a PA with over 20 years of clinical experience and the founder of the Posh PA. Clinically or in my work with patients, I work in adult medical oncology, so I take care of cancer patients who are receiving treatment and also serve as a PA school admissions expert and mentor through the Posh PA. I help pre-PAs navigate the admissions process strategically and confidently. I also support healthcare professionals who want to build their own personal brand and create more flexibility in their careers.
That's incredible to hear. So you've had a long and impactful career as a PA, and what originally inspired you to enter the healthcare field and choose the PA profession?
So my background is slightly different than some other people who know they want to go into medicine for a really long time. I had initially gone into the genetic slash research space, but over time I felt as though I wanted to be more on the patient-facing side because I was lacking that personal connection that I really enjoy. So I chose to become a PA because I wanted a career that would grow with me through different stages of my life. The one thing about doing research and being kind of in the lab all the time was, like I said, lacking those personal connections. But when I looked at my future, I really wanted something more that had that flexibility and versatility for me to kind of adapt my career to my lifestyle in a way. I also really value like building connections with people, and I felt like becoming a PA would allow me um, to do that. And it's a career that again would grow with me throughout my stages of life, but also have those relationships with patients, be there for them during difficult times, and make a real impact, when they need it the most. So yeah, I mean, my experiences as a as a pre-PA showed me how confusing and overwhelming the path into medicine can be, especially for pre-PAs and for first generation students who don't have strong mentorship. And so that's really what inspired my current work, not just caring for patients, but also guiding future providers and having them believe in a career that is possible for them.
Definitely, and I love how you're able to kind of pick that PA profession. And there's so many pros when you pick that field because you get mobility to switch fields whenever you want to and be able to see your patients, for a longer time. And yeah. You mentioned that you wanted a career that could grow with you through different stages of life. How has the PA profession allowed you to do that?
So, the profession, I don't like when people use the term work-life balance because I feel like that's not something any career gives you. It's something that you have to create for yourself. I think being a PA, though, gives you the opportunity to create the lifestyle that you want because of your ability to switch between specialties and be able to take care of patients in any specialty across the lifespan. That's what's unique about being a PA. But you also have to create that life experience for yourself as well. And so I do think as a PA, there's opportunities to, yes, work full time, but there is also opportunity to do things outside of your clinical work that help you create this flexibility. So for example, if you do enjoy clinical practice like I do, I work in my clinical practice 2 days a week, but then when I'm not working, I'm serving as a pre-PA mentor and admissions expert, right? But there are other things you could do. You could go into teaching, you could go into corporate pharmaceutical medicine. You can pursue different avenues outside of your clinical work that will allow you to have this lifestyle that you want. And so I think it's important to remind people that yes, becoming a PA is going to give you flexibility, but you have to use it and you have to find the opportunities to create that lifestyle that you're looking for.
That's a whole new aspect for me, and I actually really like how you're like saying that like work-life balance is what you make it to be, and that's incredible. And I'm gonna definitely think about that later on in my career. Um,
Yeah.
but alongside clinical work, you've became deeply involved in mentoring and admission advising. And what experiences led you to realizing how confusing the path into medicine can be for students?
Yeah, so I it was confusing for me. So I think that that really drives what I do, mostly because I lived it, you know. I also had zero people in my family in the medical field at all. So when I decided I was going to do this, they looked at me like I had 10 heads. You know, I graduated from college, I had a degree, and I looked at them and I said, you know, I'm going to go into medicine. I want to be on the clinical side. You know, I don't think I want to be a nurse. I don't know if the medical school path is right for me. And I had a family friend growing up that was a PA. And so I talked to her, and that's kind of what really kind of pushed me towards the PA profession. But then when it came to the actual steps to like try to get into a PA program, I mean, I did a four-year undergrad university. I still had to go back and take classes. I realized that all of the programs had slightly different requirements. I didn't know what I was doing. I had to go get patient care experience, even though I needed a full-time job to pay for my apartment in, Boston at the time. So I was working a full-time job and then getting a CNA license so I could work a part-time job and get this patient care experience and, doing all the things that pre-PAs do. I remember that so vividly. I also remember very vividly at the time having a stack of paper applications, and also they started the online application. So I had a stack of papers and an online thing that I was trying, it was like a dial up, trying to figure what everybody wanted and sending all these things all different places. And I'm like, I literally at the time was like, I'm just doing it. Like, I don't know if this is right. I don't know. And so I just look back and think, my God, I wish I had me, like, back then. And so I understand deeply, like, the process of confusion and then also the doubt and the anxiety. And it has only gotten more competitive, over the years. And so that's what really, kind of drives me to not only, work with students one on one, but just to provide all that free information on social media as well so that people, know that they're getting credible information, in the right spot and that can help them, in one way or the other through this process.
I love how you're able to kind of mentor those students. And oh my gosh, I totally agree. What you were saying about, those applications and then, just getting patient care hours is the same thing that me and Camden are going through right now. Of course, we're going into our first year of undergrad next year. But obviously, we have to get on top of patient care hours, do this and that for PA school. So it's honestly so stressful, and yeah, I think what you're
But
doing
I
is
commend you for knowing, like at this
yes.
point, that this is what you
Hmm.
want to do. You
Hmm.
did ask me this. I don't think I answered it. The best way to kind of figure out what you think your place is in medicine is to just shadow everybody.
Yep. Yeah.
Go shadow a doctor, go shadow a PA, go shadow a nurse. Like
Hmm.
that's the only way you can really know if you're like, this is for me or it's not, And so I think that's the best way to do that too.
Definitely. So, many of the students you work with are either first generation applicants or even applicants who have applied again to PA school. So, what motivates you to keep showing up for them, especially when the admissions process feels overwhelming?
Because I know they can do it. I know that we can beat it. Do you know what I mean? I just feel like a lot of times people really struggle with, am I good enough for this? I applied before, I didn't get it. Who cares? 2 out of 3 people who get into PA school have reapplied. Okay. It's a lot of people, right? So I just think, especially for first gen students who have never been through this before, I was not a first gen student, but I do have that, sort of feeling of like, no one's here to help me, kind of in a way. And so that really drives me to help them. I also think there are amazing applicants out there that just because they don't have the resources doesn't mean they shouldn't get the guidance, right? So I just think having the ability to reach out to them and show them that they have uniqueness, that they have strengths, that will ultimately get them into PA school. I also work with a lot of what we call non-traditional applicants, people who have had other careers and are changing into PA. And I think the biggest thing for all of these types of people, first generation, um, reapplicants, non-traditional students, is confidence. It's building the confidence in building a competitive application that gives you the confidence to apply. You also have to have the right strategy because if you just try to apply to, there's 300 and something PA programs. So if you're just trying to throw spaghetti at the wall and apply to 40 programs, you're going to make a lot of mistakes. That's not strategy, right? So I think a lot of what inspires me to keep working with them is like, let's pick programs that are right for you. Let's try it in a different way. And I just really want to show people like what is possible for them when you're sort of you have a plan, you have the strategy, but you also can um, have the confidence both in yourself and in your application to apply. So I feel like it's my job to help pull that out of them in a way.
That's some incredible work that you're like helping them like transform themselves into like getting into PA school, having a strategy, probably a timeline to complete everything as well, because I've heard it's a lot, just like college applications, but I feel
Yeah.
like it's a whole other level of college
Yes.
applications. Um, but again, like Latika said earlier, um, just like trying to work through it now and preparing for that in the future because I know it's going to take a lot. And now I'll take that into consideration of creating a strategized plan for it.
Hmm.
Um, but again, you've mentioned that transformation is what keeps you going, whether it's a patient or a student. And can you share a moment that really and truly stayed with you?
Oh God, there's so many. There's so many to think about, and you're right. Like transformation is what really keeps me going. So whether it's a patient who's going through a difficult diagnosis or a student that didn't feel that they were good enough that finally gets an acceptance, healthcare is challenging. The admissions process is emotionally exhausting. And so on hard days, I remind myself that the clarity I hope to give students reduces their anxiety and that, sometimes being in their corner is really what makes all the difference. I worked with a student or an applicant, I shouldn't say student, I should say an applicant who in their 40s, recently, an amazing experience, but, didn't have a lot of that very, common patient care experience. So a lot of background in the military, a lot of background in healthcare, but more on an administrative side. Um, and is an older person who has a family who can't move, from the location that they're at, primary, provider for their family, not only just, trying to get into school, but this is a lifelong dream. And applied one cycle and just did not get in anywhere and was very discouraged when I first met this person. And I looked at the application and I'm like, what do you have to be discouraged about? Like, this is really great. I think we just have to work on, program selection. Like, I think you're applying to the wrong places. I think we need to kind of look at which programs are going to value. So when he had the opportunity to interact with multiple of my coaches throughout the process, and when he got in, we were all like on the text chain, this is so exciting, or whatever. Everybody was pulling for him, and that makes all the difference because, got not only got into one program, got into like three programs that cycle, interviewed really well. We helped him through that. And it's just exciting and it still is. I've been doing this since 2019 and it's literally still, we feel that way. When somebody that we work with that I saw that was like, this is never going to happen for me, right? Like I'm 40 plus years old, I'm out of my mind. And I'm like, you're not out of your mind. Like, if you want to do this, we can get you in. Like we can work together to like, not we can get you in, but we can work with you to help you be more confident and to see his transformation from like, I'm crazy, this I don't know what I'm thinking to, already done now with the first year of a PA program, insane. So it just is really just a nice reminder that, mentorship can change trajectories for people. And, really just showing people to value what they have and not necessarily what they don't have, I think really helps too.
Definitely. And that story is so amazing and so beautiful to hear. So, you're deeply passionate about education and empowerment. So, how do those values show up both in your oncology work and your mentorship with your students?
Yeah, so I think in both scenarios, I work in a clinic where people have cancer diagnoses, right? Very overwhelming, very scary. And they may be getting treatments that have lots of side effects. And when you read them on paper, you're like, how can I possibly put this in my body, or whatever. And, with students, it's about there's so many pieces, there's so many like things I have to remember, and there's so many like boxes I have to check and all the things. And the one thing that I do with my patients and that I do with my students is the very first thing I ask patients, new patients, is do you know why you're here? And I also ask that to my students. Do you know why you're here? Like, we have to think about why we're showing up for something. Okay. Number one. The second thing is then break it down into achievable steps, right? So I always tell cancer patients, this is a marathon. It is not a sprint. And the same thing applies, right? We all want to get the treatments and then see how it's working, right? Is it working? Is it working? We all want that, right? But the truth of the matter is, we can't do that quickly. That's going to take 9 weeks of time or, that kind of thing. So let's break this down into manageable steps. First, we're going to do this. Then we're going to check again. Then we're going to do this. So setting, kind of short-term achievable goals, both with my patients and with my students, is a way to help reduce overwhelm for them. I think also speaking to people in a language they can understand helps a lot too. If you can relate to someone and really meet them at their level is very important in both aspects. So I would say, that kind of theme of sort of let's just take a step back, like from the big picture for a second, and let's break it down. Like, and let's make this, hey, when you come back to me in 3 weeks, this is what I hope happens, right? When you come back to me in 3 weeks, you should have your personal statement done. When you have do you know what I'm saying? So that's kind of how I work with them throughout.
That is some amazing work, and you're doing a lot to help them out all the time. And through this, building the Posh PA while continuing to work clinically is a huge accomplishment.
Thank you.
And what challenges did you face when creating this platform, and what keeps moving you forward?
So I kind of fell into this in a little bit of a way. I sort of helped a few students locally who I knew in clinic, like that were working as research assistants or whatever. And I was like, this is really fun. And then I kind of started sharing a little bit about it on it was like my personal Instagram page at that point. And I had all these people kind of asking me, like, what do you do? How did you do this? And I was like, oh my God, I think this is like a thing. So I was working pretty much full time when I started kind of doing all of this. And it very quickly turned into um, a side passion for me. But over time, you only have so many hours and days in a week, right? And I'm married and I have a kid and, all the things. And so I eventually scaled down, to part-time on my work. The biggest challenges in building a platform like this is also what 3PAs think about is like, am I crazy? Like, what am I good in? Like, people are gonna like me for this? Like, what is this? There's a lot of self-doubt that comes in. I think there's a lot of ups and downs. It is sort of ebbs and flows in a way. And so I think, again, for me, trying to break it down into smaller steps has really helped. But also, I got myself a coach, and that made a huge difference. I never ran a business before. I never set up a business before. And so I think the biggest challenge was not knowing really how to do that. I was kind of flying by the seat of my pants in a way. And so once I got myself some help and really kind of structured this in a way that could work. And then the second thing, obviously, time management. Really, it's very easy when you have a virtual online business that's very social media heavy to just be on all the time, and feel that pressure to have to continue to give information and continue to create content rather than want to do it. There's a very like there's a balance with that. And so really trying to figure that out over time was a very important lesson for me, in terms of, I want to be giving these people information, but I also can't be pushing myself, beyond my boundaries. And so really setting very, very intentional boundaries for myself of when I'm working, when I'm not working, when I'm in clinic, when I'm not in clinic, when I'm with my family, when I'm not. So, so that I can really be my best for both positions.
I honestly love your motivation and congratulations on again for building such a powerful platform. It's truly amazing what you're doing for students and applicants.
Thank you.
So, you've helped hundreds of students gain acceptance into PA school. Again, congratulations.
Thank you.
What do you think students most often underestimate about themselves during this process?
Um, I think I hear this all the time. There's nothing unique about me. Like my I don't think there's anything. I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, I didn't have this aha moment of deciding I wanted to be a PA. I'm like, well, neither did I, And so I think really students have a really hard time understanding what value they bring to the table. I think applicants spend a lot of time comparing themselves to everyone else, right? I do not like it when I see people posting their stats online because you don't know what else is on their application, right? So it creates a lot of that, like, oh my God, that person has this and that. I don't have that. And, but you don't know, you may have something they don't have, correct? So it's very hard to kind of see that stuff and deep in the Reddit hole and like deep on a Facebook group and not kind of immediately say, I'm not good enough for this. So it's really about trying to pull out, what are the most unique aspects of your application? What are your strengths? How can we show those strengths? How can we put together the most competitive package for you? So that you're confident in what you're putting forward. Because if you're not confident, we need to really rethink about what we can do to get you there, whether that's taking more classes or retaking classes or adding more hours or whatever it might be, so that you can feel, you are in that way. And I also feel like a lot of people struggle with their essays for that reason. I don't have anything unique to say. This is total lie. If I talk to you for 5 minutes, I can find out what your three strengths are. And so I really think, I always tell my students that your YPA needs to be more than I just want to help people or I just want, work-life balance. It has to be more than that. You have to want to impact people in some way, and you have to believe that what you have done has prepared you to do that. And if we can kind of convey that in your application, then it's a success. So just they really underestimate their value is what I would say. It's a really long-winded way of saying so. So,
I felt that way all the time with college application season.
mhm.
Just seeing everybody post their stats online and then seeing what schools people get into, and I'm like, oh, this is making like this is
Yeah.
stressing me out.
Yeah,
But
my
I
niece just got into college and it's impossible, right? Like then you see people getting their acceptances and they have their school behind them and the whole thing, and you're like, I haven't heard anything. Like, and it's just really, I mean, very anxiety producing. So I totally get it.
exactly. Even just like waiting for like regular decisions to come back. Like
Yeah.
I submitted this application in December and you're telling me I'm waiting till March to April to hear back. Like I'm scratching my skin so like ready for it just to hit me.
Yeah. And it's the same way with PA school. You could
Oh
apply in
God.
May and hear nothing until December, right? So that waiting game is real and it's a challenge for sure.
Oof, I just gotta have the patience then.
Yes.
So you've created a career model that blends medicine, mentorship, and flexibility. And why do you believe it is so important for health professionals to know that they don't have to choose just one path?
Because I think that it's been ingrained in our DNA that we always have to do more, 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 right? To be successful. And I think that sometimes you just need to do less to feel successful. I think it's very easy, by the way, when you're taking care of other people day in and day out, to put your own needs and your own health on the back burner. Burnout is a big problem in the healthcare, field. People wanting to leave medicine after so many years because they're tired, overworked, maybe have administrative demands, and feel trapped. You feel like you have this job, you went to school for all of this, and you have this thing in your mind like, I chose this. So I have to suffer, and I wanted to do this, and I had that. I mean, I was so burned out when I started the Posh PA. I was like, I don't know that I want to do clinical work full time anymore. I don't think I can do this. Like mentally, I'm exhausted. Physically, I'm exhausted. I have a child now. Like I have to figure this out. And I was not aware of the different opportunities out there to be able to do that. But I do think that there is, this mindset of like, we chose this. This is what we signed up for. So we have to just put up with it. And that is just no longer the case in this day and age. I think there's so much opportunity. Create something for yourself if that's what you want. There are different areas that you can explore outside of clinical medicine to create this, but it doesn't just happen. You have to work towards making it happen. You have to be committed to it. But when it finally does happen, it's amazing. So you don't have to stay just because you went to school and signed up for a career doesn't mean that you can't go a little rogue and create something that gives you more time at home with your family or allows you to travel more or there's nothing wrong with that. And I think as a culture and as a society, especially for your generation, that is so much more accepted than when I kind of came up into this. So I'm hoping it's a model for people to realize like you can do if I can do it, anyone can do it. Like I'm just a girl from New Jersey. Like I I can do it. So, and yeah, and I just want people to know that if you do go into a healthcare career and you find yourself anxious, depressed, you're like, I don't know if I want this. There are other opportunities for you to use your expertise in different ways, and still be able to help people, which is what you signed up to do. So, yeah.
Definitely agree. And thank you so much again, Michelle, for that advice. And
Yeah.
finally, to wrap things up, what advice would you give to students or healthcare professionals who feel unsure, intimidated, or even stuck, but still want to pursue a meaningful career in medicine?
I would say, wow, that's a tough one. Um, I would say that you have to trust your gut and your instinct. If it's something that, if pursuing a career in medicine is something you want to do and you will regret if you don't, then you owe it to yourself to sort of pursue and explore that option. But also just be aware that it's going to be a challenge. It's not going to all go smoothly. You're going to fail along the way. You should expect to. And the same thing goes for if you're a practicing healthcare provider that is struggling and wants to do something else. When you make that decision to pursue something, it it's the road there is never going to be smooth. But if it's something that you're passionate about, it's something that fulfills you, it's something that is going to bring joy into your life, and that you can see yourself, giving back, then every up and down is completely worth it. But just know this is not going to be a straight path forward. There's going to be a lot of ups and downs and a lot of great times and a lot of crying. But at the end of the day, if you work hard and you stay true to yourself and you stay authentic and you listen to the right people and surround yourself with the right people, you can have the healthcare career you want, and the life you want at the same time. You don't have to choose one.
That is some beautiful advice, and thank you so much. Thank you so much, Michelle, for sharing your journey, your wisdom, and your passion for mentorship and patient care.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Of course. Thank you for coming on. Your work was such a powerful reminder that clarity, compassion, and advocacy can truly change lives both in and outside the clinic.
And
Thank
to
you.
everyone tuning in, thank you so much for joining us on today's episode of Vitals and Voices.
If you enjoyed this conversation, then be sure to follow, share, and stay tuned for more episodes of Battles and Voices.
We'll see you next time.
Bye.